Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Griefdrums and welcome to the video. Today we are going to be covering the topic of whether Lesion or Jaeger, the defensive powerhouses of Siege, need to be nerfed. So now I'm going to start off by saying that I am well aware this is a bit of a controversial topic depending on who you're speaking to. Some people are going to come flying out of the gate and straight away say Lesion 100% needs a nerf, or Jaeger is so overpicked it's unbelievable. He's essentially the defensive version of Ash. And I can't disagree with either of those, but I also want to put a bit of a spin on it. So here's the long and short of it. A few days ago, a very well-known content creator posted a question on social media asking, who would you rather see nerfed, Lesion or Jaeger? Now, some of you may know who it was that posted this, and I don't want to, if you don't, the reason I'm not including their name is because I don't want to direct any more attention to this, in the sense of there was a lot of hate spewing on it, and a lot of negativity, and a lot of people saying, why are you just trying to nerf everybody? Why are you bashing everybody? And I don't really agree with that sentiment. At the end of the day, he was asking a question of which would you rather see nerfed. I don't think he's adamant that either of them need it or that they both definitely need it. So with that in mind, I figured I would just leave it blank and we will just discuss this topic as a separate entity rather than, directing any sort of further attention towards that content creator. So let's get into the reasons and the logic behind why you would even ask this question to start off with. Just quickly, for those that aren't aware, the Rainbow Six devs release a win rate delta per operator versus pick rate graph every single season. We get one of these, and it showcases whereabouts operators are on both the attacking side and the defensive side. And it showcases whether they are, as you can see, overpicked too strong or they're overpicked too weak. And it gives us a bit of an idea of where people's win rates are. If you take a Frost, for example, not many people seem to take her, but when they do, they win more than 2.6% of the games that they play. So their win delta is very, very high, along with people like Capcan, but they're really underpicked and underutilized. I mean, the fact that both Frost, Capcan, and Ella are there, that shows that trap operators are very, very strong at the minute, but they're not really utilized by many people, and that's really strange to look at. So there is a lot of information you can take from these graphs, but they do need to be taken with a pinch of salt. A perfect example of that would be maybe their win rate is so high because they're underpicked. Because you're not used to seeing a Frost or a Capcan on the team, maybe you don't pay enough attention and look out for them. I know I've been caught out by it in the past. I think, well, this team hasn't taken a Frost, or I haven't seen a Frost all day. And then suddenly out of nowhere, a Frost trap just jumps out from nowhere on a set of stairs and kills me. Another thing we need to consider is the new pick and ban system. That has got a massive effect on what exactly we are seeing here on the Year 4 Season 2, win delta. If an operator is banned out, how are you going to know whether they won or lost, or, that they're overpicked or underpicked? You can't really account for that. So with that in mind, this season's graph isn't really a good one to go from. Nevertheless, you will quite clearly be able to see that Lesion and Jaeger are pretty far out there in the overpicked too strong category. Their win deltas are reasonably high, and they are picked a lot of the time. I mean, how often do you see these guys on a defensive team? It's nearly every round unless they are banned. As I say, however, this particular graph includes the pick and ban. So quite how to work from this information, I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to Year 4 Season 1, and we'll take a look at that graph instead. Now, as you can see with this particular graph, the operators, both Lesion and Jaeger, are still pretty far out there in the overpicked too strong category. Their win delta is a little bit lower, but I think that comes down to the fact that the pick and ban is quite clearly skewing results. So I think it's by the fact that they are both in the overpicked too strong category in both this season. It's quite clear that this was already the case and that the pick and ban hasn't really had too much of an effect on that element. So then the question comes, why? Why are they both overpicked and why are they both too strong? Well, the overpicked aspect comes down to this. Lesion provides a lot of intel. If you can keep him alive to the end of the game, he can not only tell you where people are pushing from, he can slow them down, he can stop them sprinting, and he can absolutely punish teams that haven't made enough ground on the objective in decent time. Further to that, he also damages people and he stops the diffuser from going down unless they pull the goo mine out. That's a lot of operator right there, and that's a hell of a lot of utility. On top of that, he's got a really, really good SMG with barely any recoil, impact grenades. The dude is just perfect as a defender. You can utilize him in several different fashions. You can either put him on site as an anchor to slow that final push down and put goo mines absolutely everywhere on every entry point. Or alternatively, you can play him as more of a roamer, and you can run off on your own. You can cover your own back by putting goo mines down. You can cover sets of stairs. You don't even need to peek long corridors. You know, you can put a goo mine halfway down it, and the second it goes off, you can then jump out and just light people up before they've realised what's going on. You've got the ability to wallbang people the second a goo mine goes off if they're on the other side of a soft wall. He is a strong operator, and there is no doubt about it in my mind. Next up, we've got Jaeger. Now, the difficulty with Jaeger is back in the day with his ACOG, he was an obvious go-to. He was the only defender with an AR. He had an ACOG. He could take on those long-range engagements. He was a 3-speed, and on top of that, he also had the ability to deny the use of grenades, flashbangs, and smokes, although way back when, smokes weren't really an issue because they were so bad. But nevertheless, he is a powerful operator as well. If you want a reasonably little amount of responsibility, you can quite literally just put the gadgets down and just go off. You can go off roaming, you can go off just running around the map, and treat him pretty much like Ash. You can just frag out. Once the gadgets are down, and if they're a decent Jaeger, the reinforcements, because let's face facts, most Jaegers just run off without putting them down, the person playing Jaeger can literally just go into no brain mode. Just take the brain out and just go shooting lots and get a lot of kills. They can do runouts, they can do jump outs, and it's no real detriment to the team then, because apart from the fact that you've lost someone, if he gets 1 or 2 picks and then dies, you haven't lost that utility. It's still in play and it's still there in the site or wherever he left his ADSs. Obviously, that's the opposite to Lesion. If he dies early on, you don't get the full amount of goo mines, you don't get enough of that utility, and you can only cover 1 or 2 ways. But with him having such little utility and the fact that he can only really stop grenades, why is he so overpicked? Well, the obvious answer to that is the fact that there is no one else that can do his job. He is the only one that can stop frag grenades coming into sight. He's the only one that can stop those candelas coming in, the flashes, fuse cluster charges, you know, give you a chance against those. No one else can really fill that spot. Now, I think, although I'm not 100% sure, that the idea of implementing Warden was to work as kind of a second Jaeger. The plan was to make it so that he was one of the only other defenders that could really deal with things like flashbangs. The problem is that Warden just sucks. He's not very good at all. I mean, being able to deal with a flashbang is great, but so does the corner of the room. The corner of any single room will do that, or just turn away 90 degrees. Couple that with the fact that Warden's gadget will not protect him in any way, shape or form against a frag grenade that happens to come around that corner that he's playing on. The fact that he can't move, and the fact that his weapons are reasonably poo. Now don't misunderstand me, the MPX is really, really nice, but it's not exactly a hard-hitting weapon, and that's to kind of offset the fact that Valkyrie, her gadget is really strong, so her weapon isn't. But that's a whole other video. With that being a lot of the backstory and the surrounding argument for why these operators are picked, I now want to take a look at the original question that was posed. Who would you rather see nerfed? Lesion or Jaeger? Now, I know what my honest answer would be, and a lot of you may have even seen that written on the original content creator's post, but I'd like you to vote if you can right now, before you hear anything further in this video. Vote at the top corner, there's a poll there, let me know who you would rather see nerfed. Okay, you done? I personally wouldn't nerf either of them. I wouldn't touch them. I know they're overpicked and I know they're too strong, but like I said, the reason Jaeger is overpicked is the fact that he is the only one that can do his job. If you were to add another operator with a similar gadget and a similar ability who can actually stop grenades, would Jaeger be as picked as he is now? Probably not. Now obviously this would depend on the operator that comes in, the weapons that he's got, the speed of the operator, because we all know 3 speeds in this game are still pretty strong. But if you bring in the right operator in a new season, I believe that Jaeger's pick rate could potentially be cut in half. Now, if you cut that in half and bring him further over to the left, he is going to be in a lot better place, and so is the new operator. Now, Lesion is a bit of a tricky one, because I understand a lot of people's arguments. A lot of people are going to say, well, you know, just remove the intel element. He can put his gadgets out, but if you don't have the little marker above them that you can see through walls, you don't know exactly which one has been tripped. And that is a fair argument. Other people say, you know, make it so that operators can still sprint. And I've even heard arguments, just cut his number of goo mines down to like 4. That way he cannot blanket the entirety of the map, but he can instead only utilize them on specific areas. And all of these would be potentially viable ways to address, you know, the pick rate of Lesion and the win rate of Lesion. But what about this? Instead of nerfing everybody into oblivion and making each of the operators really sort of bad to play or, you know, rubbish to play, why don't we take a look at the lower picked operators like Tachanka, Warden, Castle, even people like Smoke or Clash. Caveira is overpicked but too weak. Why don't we take a look at some of these other operators and say, why? Why are they there? Why are they not in a good spot? And instead of bringing the top tier players down and those operators down, why don't we make more viable operators to choose from? Instead of just having to pick Jaeger for his ADS ability, I want to be in a situation where I think, oh, I could take that, but I would really like to take a ridiculous Tachanka that actually is viable and works, you know, rather than the current state that he's in. Or instead of picking Jaeger, instead I could look at it and say, you know what, Warden is in a strong place right now. Make the other operators not so shit. I want difficulty. I want to make it so that I can't really decide who to pick because they are all so good. Now I understand that's never going to happen. It's never going to be a perfect graph. That is why it is the way it is, and that's why we keep nerfing and buffing different operators all the time. As and when a new map comes out, an operator could be too strong on that. Now both Lesion and Jaeger are going to be strong on every single site that you play them on. They are both reasonably aggressive operators, and they both have gadgets that play directly into that. Unlike people like, for example, Bandit, you don't really need to keep people out of every single wall, so certain sites he's going to be more beneficial on. And that is the perfect state of the game, having it so that operators excel on certain sites and on others they're not so required. But you can either nerf Lesion and Jaeger into oblivion and just make it so that no one wants to play them anymore, which I don't really think is the best bet, or you could give us other options and more viable options. The other idea is you start playing around with interactions more, so you can make it so that when an operator is picked, if another operator is picked, they interact in some way, shape or form. Now we do see this a fair bit in the form of, Mirror will put a window down, Bandit will electrify it, or Castle will put a window up, and Mute will, jam it. We can see this kind of thing in the game already, but there is nothing stopping the devs from saying, okay, maybe there's only so much invisibility that Team Rainbow can have. Maybe there is a limited amount that they can have. So if you've got a Lesion and an Echo on the team, maybe Legion's goo mines are no longer invisible. That will then force you to say, okay, should we take both of them for this round or should we take one or the other? Now that is just a spitball idea that I just came up with on the spot, it was just, but these kind of interactions can work really well together. And I personally think that instead of making an operator worse and worse and worse to the point that people don't want to play them, I don't think that's the best way to solve all of these situations, to tidy up these graphs, because it's never going to be perfect. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, like you wouldn't believe. I've seen a lot of comments on other people's things, and I want to hear what you guys think. Do you agree with me on this? Or am I way out of line? Do they both need to be nerfed into the ground? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, I want to finish the video off by saying, if you know who the content creator is that posted this originally, I have nothing but the utmost respect for them. They are an incredible creator, and I completely value their opinion. We've had several conversations when we play online together, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. If he believes that both of these should be nerfed in any way, or if he's just asking the question, I don't think that that is a logical argument to then start directing hate towards him on that post. Grow up and have a civil discussion about it. Figure it out, because that's what he's trying to do at the end of the day. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider hitting that thumbs up. And if you don't already, make sure to subscribe for all things Rainbow Six. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay reckless and relentless.